Welcome back to Word of Mouth. Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
How are you?
Doing great. It's Friday.
It's Friday. Let's jump straight in. Amanda, why should people care about architecture?
It is the fabric and backdrop of our lives. It affects everything from function to mood. There's all this data that actually talks about how design affects not only our productivity, but our happiness. Things like connection to nature, connection to organic elements. There's like a lot of interesting studies, like of office workers, for example, that are, productivity really goes down in these like really soulless, like big, deep, no, natural daylight spaces versus spaces that are open to courtyards and open space and light and air. So yeah, it's the backdrop of our lives. And then there's all this function too. Like cities need to function, buildings need to function so that we can live and thrive. And design also can foster connection and community. So.
Fantastic. Let's dive into all of that. Briefly, for anyone who doesn't know, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Amanda Loper. I am an architect and designer. I design at all scales, from the city scale to the building scale to the interiors scale. I am a principal of David Baker Architects, where I have been for 20 years.
Wow.
Right after college, I moved to San Francisco, started at David Baker Architects, fell in love with it. Really, it was a continuation of what I learned at Auburn at the Rural Studio. And this architect, his name was Sambo Mockbee, that started it. I don't know, have you heard of him?
I've heard of the Rural Studio, but I don't know if I've heard of him.
Yeah, so Sambo started, it's a design build studio in West Alabama, in one of the poorest counties in our state, where, people still, struggle with basic things like running water and, septic systems that work. And so he started a design build studio there. And a lot of architecture schools, and this is changing, but historically have been about this Howard Roark kind of model of architecture, where the architect is this godlike figure that, puts their opinion on everyone else.
Yeah.
But the Rural Studio, it was undeniable. It was this design build. You talked to the clients, you saw them around town, and Sambo really talked about this idea of being a citizen architect. So David Baker, who is an incredible human, he lives in San Francisco. So when I started working there, that was a continuation of that thread for me, that architects, we have a responsibility to do good out in the world and to make things better. Was there for 10 years, and then we had a couple of kids and just had to kind of let go of San Francisco because it was really tough to find somewhere to live that we could afford. We were away from family, but by then I'd become a principal and an owner. And then Brandon was having a successful career as a commercial director. But he could travel for his job. When he got a big job, it meant like, hey, I just got that job for Nike, but I'm going to be in Chile for 3 weeks.
Right.
And I was trying to have a pretty demanding career, and love it. And of course with the kids. And so it just started feeling like things weren't working. So I took David to coffee on a Saturday morning and cried my eyes out for a couple hours. And I was like, I don't want to leave, but we have to leave.
Yeah.
And so much credit to him in that moment, because this was before COVID. This was before we all lived on Zoom. And it was before the architectural tools we use so easily in the cloud. It was kind of before that was all working that well. It was 2016. And he was like, well, first of all, he was like, is Birmingham in Georgia? Is it in Mississippi? We had to get clear on where the heck it was. And he was like, let's give this a shot. And that was all I needed. We're from Alabama, but not from Birmingham. But we came to Birmingham. I started the office, and that's been 10 years ago now.
Wow.
And feel really lucky to do work with incredible collaborators and clients. So the firm, we're nationally known for our affordable housing design work that you wouldn't think looks like whatever you think those buildings are. Like they win national design awards.
Yeah.
And they often are indistinguishable from kind of non-affordable buildings. And so we work at a really large scale and work in really big cities. And so that's been really interesting being back in Birmingham, because just we don't do a lot of that work here. And we have this whole community of great, capable, talented architects that are also in Birmingham. And so it's like the few kind of big scale projects that come, you know, there's just like a lot of people that could do that work well.
Yeah.
So the work I do now is like, it's still based in California or Nashville or Raleigh, or I'm going to Chicago next week. So I do that kind of big scale mission work in other places, although we do have a few things on the boards here. But then the work I get to do here is like really like kind of intimate partnership work, like what I call boutique relation based projects, like things like my husband's wine shop or our building that I, designed and co-developed that has like June and Last Call and all that, those spaces. Like we did the Jenny's ice cream, or the building where Salute is in. We did those like 6 units. So those projects have been really fun.
Yeah.
Or the bathrooms at City Walk.
The bathrooms at City
The
Walk.
bathrooms
Wow.
at City Walk. Yeah.
I've been there too.
Yeah. So those
I think
have
I've been to everywhere that you've done.
all right. Yeah, it's been really fun to do those spaces. Or
Yeah.
Supertone. I mean,
Yeah.
that was such a fun one.
Yeah.
But just to get to work with people I love or entrepreneurs that I really admire their vision. So that's been a really fun diversification, because the big scale work is great, but it takes years to come to fruition. It's such a long game.
Yeah.
And you can't really get as custom and granular, like there's a guy in our office, he like did the plaster work at Supertone,
Wow.
we can't kind of get that scrappy in San Francisco. So, it's been a real joy for the whole office. Like at first I was like, thank you guys so much for letting me do this. But it's been really cool to see, like we've got 8 people in the Birmingham office. We've got 65 across the country.
Wow.
For like around 40 of us are in the Bay Area, and then we've got some remote folks. But it's just been really cool to kind of have this Southern scrappy vernacular influence back onto the Bay Area office.
Yeah.
So that's been like a really fun hybridization that nobody really saw coming. It definitely was not in a strategic plan anywhere. But
Yeah.
so we feel so lucky. Like I'm having my cake and eating it too. To like live in a place like Birmingham, where we can like afford a house and the kids can walk to school. Like these are not things to take for granted.
Yeah.
And there's like opportunity to do things and create things.
Yeah.
Like the wine bar, or like developing my own building. That would have been so expensive and impossible in San Francisco.
Super cool. For context, Brandon, your husband, owns Golden Age. We've interviewed him. I can't remember off the top of my head what number episode that is, but I can link it in the show. How did you first find architecture? So you went to Auburn for school to do that. Did you go in knowing that? Where does architecture and buildings and that interest kind of start for you?
Yeah. I mean, my favorite subjects, in high school were art and sports.
Yeah.
And I made good grades. It's not like I didn't like the other things, but the things I loved were art class and playing basketball. And I knew that despite my wildest dreams, I was not going to end up in the WNBA.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to figure something out, and I need to pick my college based on that. And then I don't know where this idea came from. And I have so much love and respect and admiration for artists. But I remember as a 17-year-old in high school being like, well, I guess I can't be an artist. Like, that's not an option. And I have no idea where that limiting thought came. Because in hindsight, I'm like, why the heck not, girl?
Yeah.
But I went to architecture because it felt like an applied art and felt like design puzzles, or a place to bring in art and creativity to kind of real world problems where solutions kind of manifest out in the world. And so then I wanted to strike off to a big city, because even though I'm from Decatur, Alabama, a town of 60,000, and like lived on the outskirts in the woods and stuff, I've always loved cities. Like it's where I wanted to be. So I thought for college I would go to NYU, or I don't know, go to some cool architecture school in a major city. And my parents were like, well, we've paid into that Alabama college fund thing. And at that time, I still think Auburn is the best architectural program in the state and holds its own in the nation for sure. So it became Auburn was kind of obvious. And I remember having kind of some cold feet or something. And I tried to get into the graphic design program at the last minute because I'd also been really interested in graphic design and illustration because I thought at one point maybe I'd do like illustrated in kids' books or something. They were too full, so I had to go back into architecture. So I never even went in. So, and then Auburn, the way that their program worked at the time is your first year you take some basics and then you take like a sketching class, but then they had this thing called summer option, which was basically your rites of passage, like will you make it or will you not? And it was pretty hellish, but like I loved it. I thrive in these kind of intense environments. So it was like a lot of all-nighters. It was like pretty intense learning curve, making models, drawing, kind of drinking from a fire hose, learning about, architects and everything to do with the built environment. But I've loved it ever since I got into it.
Yeah.
I get paid to draw. I don't think it gets better than that.
It's pretty awesome.
And I switched to drawing on my iPad a few years ago, but it's my favorite.
Yeah.
And then, so in addition to drawing, to go to a place that you have kind of dreamed and built and to watch it manifest, it does not get better than that. You've drawn this elevation or you've really gone round and round with your team about, the height we should make this thing, or should we go dark here or light here? Or how should these two volumes meet? And then to see it manifest is just spiritual.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I never get tired of it.
Yeah.
I love to build things.
Fantastic. What was, when you're going through school, was there, what was your focus? What was most interesting to you? Was it community centers, public spaces, or homes, or where did your interest start developing, and then how did you get to what you're doing now?
Well, I do remember in that summer option program at the end of the summer, we had one of the project briefs was to do a dorm on campus. And that was my first taste at housing, so housing generally, David Baker talks about this, how his peers in school and, in the profession, there's this, people kind of look down on housing. They used to,
including single family home, or
no, when I say housing, I mean multi, and that's up from townhomes, stacked flats, and, apartment buildings. And I think rightly so. Housing is commodified in this country. It is a commodity. And I would say most of it is crap. And it makes me sad because it could be so much better.
Yeah.
But the thing I love about housing is there are so many constraints on it. Whereas if you gave me a museum, I think we would do a great job as an office, but we would have a learning curve, because we are so used to working
it's so open-ended
with our hands tied behind our backs and no budgets, but driven by this do-good mission to house people. Because y'all, we need places we can afford to live. I want my barista to be able to afford to live. I want our teachers, our firefighters, those folks, all of us, my kids, when they get out of college, we want everyone to afford a nice place to live.
Yeah.
So that keeps me going, but it's also just a really constrained design puzzle. So I do remember finding that joy of it feeling like this Rubik's Cube and a pretty complex problem you had to solve. And then you had to add beauty. There had to be all these functional bits and you had to kind of solve it in the most beautiful way. But I did really fall in love with drawing at architecture school. So one of the things we first learned, and maybe this will be inspiring for people, is drawing is a learned skill. Yes, some people start a little ahead on the starting blocks with kind of an innate talent, but if you draw enough, you can get great at it. So we started this first class we took, you had to do 2 sketches a day, and just building this hand-eye memory muscle. And then at Rural Studio, we had another class where we would go out to these antebellum structures. And similarly, we would have to draw these things to scale by just being there, showing up at this house and kind of seeing how things relate to each other and being able to sketch it in a way that was pretty to scale. This practice of drawing. And this idea of coming up with an idea and being able to communicate what that idea is. Because even if your idea is brilliant, but you can't talk about it in a compelling way or in a way that people understand it, it'll never get built, or you'll get ripped apart in a design jury, which also used to happen back in the day. I think it happens less now, but that's also part of the culture of design school, is that, you work on this project and often in really poorly time managed ways where you're not sleeping or whatever it is. Again, I think that's getting better these days. And I hear that COVID has really eliminated those practices. So good for you guys that are starting behind me in the profession. But but I got a great adrenaline rush out of it, to kind of stand in front of this group and be able to share your ideas and then get, constructive feedback on it.
Yeah. I think something that's really interesting to me about the architecture as a profession is it's all the intensity and the pressure that you're talking about. Because most artists, a lot of what they're doing is very open-ended. And then they're having to self-impose their own limits, if that's, working within a certain canvas or medium or something like that, or literally controlling their own time. Because when you make art for a living, it's kind of up in the air, and if you're a sculptor or painter, it's well, I need to do this much to sell this much to it's just it's so much more abstract. And I find that a lot of times people are, and that's part of the personality type too, but pretty erratic with it. It's okay, on Saturday night I'm staying up all night and I'm sculpting and I'm making 5 things, then I don't work for 2 weeks or whatever. Why is there so much pressure in architecture? What's creating this time constraint?
Well, you just mean the real constraints that are on projects? Where does that I mean, that's the thing. It's this applied art that is, and the other thing about architects is that we are wildly different animals. You might meet an architect that doesn't even practice and they make jewelry or they sew or make clothes, or there are all these architects practicing outside the profession. And then some are very conceptual, or these Zaha Hadid folks that are Frank Gehry's of the world that came with these radical ideas and maybe weren't the best at waterproofing, but changed the profession. And then you get all the way down to super technical folks that just are really happy to talk to you only about waterproofing. Yeah. So that is one thing that's just interesting to note about architects. They come in all shapes and sizes. But I mean, the reality is we practice in this business environment and a time per hour kind of services model, which adds this real world business constraint that you have to figure it out. Either you take a bunch of time and you iterate on it 8 times and you spend more time than you had the budget, and your firm loses money and you don't make it as an office. That is one thing. Architects are also not often the best business people. We get 1 class on that in school, but most of it is on design. And so you think so much about your craft and creativity and the purity of solving that design problem. And then you get into the real world and you have to fit it into an 8-hour day. And it's a tough transition. And I think some firms navigate that differently. We are pretty rapid and quick in our thinking and quick in our production of we draw really quickly, we talk really quickly, we sketch really quickly. We're really facile both digitally and physically, and I think it's one of our strengths. That's how we've been able to overcome the pressure. And then again, in our genre where we do tend to work for community groups or nonprofits, we also have this pressure of budgets and just what is possible, and everything has to be defensible. We're not these kind of architects that are just specifying doodads because they might look beautiful. It's well, our clients, my nonprofit developer who only has so much amount of money and is trying to house the most people they can, or a startup, a Golden Age or a Supertone, or these folks, sometimes it's their life savings and they're putting into this thing. And so you really want to do right by them and spend that money in the best way that's going to be so functional but also so beautiful.
Yeah. This is changing gears a little bit, but what's the difference between a contractor and an architect? Because I know a lot of people in the South in particular, like their dad or their uncle is a builder, and he just like oftentimes does the whole thing himself and builds the house or whatever. What's the difference between the two?
Well, traditionally, an architect, their contractual obligation is to design and draw and document and create like the project manual, which is documents and specifications for how to build a thing. And then the contractor takes those, they price them, they build off of them. If they have questions, they ask. And depending on the scale of the project, that process can be really formal. And it definitely is worth noting that I do not do single family homes. Like that's a whole different way of working that what I'm going to say doesn't apply to. And again, the bigger the projects, and sometimes the money or the work we do is funded federally or with state public dollars. And so there's a lot of oversight in those processes. But in short, the contractor builds what the architects draw. But, back when architecture started as a profession, the architect was the builder.
Yeah.
Which is something that I actually have this, when I try to think positively about AI, I'm like, maybe this is a way back for architects to kind of do it all again. Because, there's some positives with the architect and contractors being separated, but in my opinion, it's just more negative than it is positive because you always have to kind of, there's a covering your, you didn't draw it exactly like this and I didn't price it exactly like this. So it's your fault that we're going to spend a little more money on this. Like sometimes there's that dynamic. And I think if the architects and contractors could work more in a more integrated fashion, we could get better results, which is what we did at the bandsaw building. Okay. So Kyle Tyree was my partner there. I met Kyle when we were building the Jenny's ice cream at Pepper Place. And it turns out we had both looked at that building separately, but
this is the building where you're located?
Yes. Okay. And it's where June Coffee, Last Call, Zephyr is. And so Kyle's office is in the courtyard and mine's like in the back of the courtyard.
He is lock contractors? Or
he is lock contractors. Okay. Kyle's an incredible guy. You should have him on.
Okay.
I'd
love to.
He's a very cool contractor.
Yeah.
He's got an arts nonprofit and all these other cool things. But so we paired up, and it was the first time I got that utopian taste of like being the owner, architect, and contractor.
Yeah.
And it's like a high I'm going to keep chasing for the rest of my career.
Yeah.
And so, because Kyle and I were able to look at each other and be like, we want to achieve this thing. And I'd be like, well, how much did you put in the concrete budget?
Yeah.
Like he introduced me to his his concrete guy, Norm, who was like in his 80s. And Norm we had a budget, and I was like, Norm, I'd like to like texture this whole concrete wall like we did at the walls at City Walk. And he's like, we don't have the budget for that. I was like, well, how much texture can I get? And he's like, I'll give you 30% for this money. And so we used wood we found in the building because a woodworker used to be in that building. We used wood from there to use that texture. But, Norm is the one that said we could afford 30%. And if that was like a typical contracted owner, architect, contractor relationship, there wouldn't have been this ability to have that kind of flexibility.
Yeah.
And there's like countless examples of that over at Bandsaw. And it's one of the reasons, like it's such a magical, custom, non-corporate, rich product that it is.
Yeah. It's an amazing space.
Thank you.
It's so cool.
I love it. It makes me so happy to see people in the courtyard, like hanging out.
Yeah. There are a few places I like to go in Birmingham that it feels like me and my friends always say that it feels like this could be anywhere and it would be amazing. Like it could throw its own weight around in New York City or London or something like that. And I feel like that building is on that level.
Well, thanks. That's my goal for everything I do.
Yeah.
Which some people say it's too intense, but I'm like, life is too short to not do excellent work.
Absolutely.
And we deserve it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Elon Musk. I don't necessarily like what he does in his personal life, but from a business perspective, I think part of what's made him excellent and efficient with Tesla in particular is he integrates the design and production team so that they are one. So, you know, if a person building the car or the robot or whatever has some kind of issue, he turns around and talks to the lady who designed it and then fusses at her, and then they beef it out and then they fix it.
Yeah.
And I also hope that the future looks more like integrating those things, because I think when you integrate the engineer with the designer in any field, you end up creating a better product because it's both beautiful and functional at the same time.
Yeah, and you just eliminate those barriers to collaboration and innovation.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing I'm always asking our contractors or the owner. I'm like, we need to talk to the subs, like the people that are actually going to frame this or actually form this.
Yeah.
Because maybe this does happen a lot around textured concrete. Like we'll throw something in our drawings because we're always looking to try to infuse handmade, wabi-sabi, surprising, non-manufactured elements into the work, because I think as humans that's what we respond to, because that's like who we are.
Yeah.
But also we'll kind of give it a shot in the drawings, and then the contractor just puts a high number on it. But I'm like, no, let us talk to these people forming it. And it becomes like that conversation I had with Norm, where it's like, well, I can't do that, but we could do this. And like just being able to have those conversations is I think what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this is happening. I mean, there are design build firms out there. They're not, as prevalent as kind of a traditional separation, but I don't know if you've heard about modular housing. Modular building.
Because I looked into building one on a lot here.
Yeah. So there's, these innovations that I'm honestly really surprised they haven't gone farther. They figured this out in Sweden decades ago.
Yeah.
So in Sweden, they have all the factories are designed where like a 5'4" woman can do every job.
Wow.
So they've designed a construction, framework where it's more inclusive, more folks can do those jobs. It's safer, it's more comfortable. So they do all this, the building in the factory, and then they go put them, out in modules like Tetris.
Yeah.
We've not gotten there in the US yet. We've done several modular projects where like 110 home building was stacked in 2 weeks, for example.
Wow.
And they like closed down the streets in San Francisco, and they like just craned it on like Tetris.
That's crazy.
And then, there's a modular company here, Blocks. They do medical buildings.
Okay.
There's definitely some medical opportunities, like these kind of wet walls in hospitals and things like that. And then there's kind of panelized modular systems, which is also going on here with a group, Navigate Affordable Housing. They're doing some work in Titusville with Marshall Anderson, the architect. But so they're like panelizing in modules. So it's like a wall will be panelized or a roof.
Yeah.
So there's definitely people are making a go at this. And there was this company, Katera, that vertically integrated, and they were acquiring architecture firms left and right. And they got all this funding, and then they like went out in a blaze of glory. They went under. But everybody's kind of chasing this
modular thing.
Exactly. And this vertically integrated bit. So, and again, I just kind of keep wondering how AI will maybe help fast track some of those things, but we'll see.
How are you guys using AI, or are you? Yeah,
this is a hot debate in the office right now. Especially I was talking to some colleagues, like my colleagues that live in San Francisco. It's that city has such an energy about it. And so whatever the kind of startup du jour is, you kind of swim in it when you live there. So one of my colleagues was just like, it's just really hard to be here right now. There's like AI billboards everywhere. There's like robots on every corner.
Yeah. Dystopian almost.
Yeah. The Waymos, although the Waymos are in Nashville now, they're coming for us all.
They are.
But yeah, she was just saying like, it's just all around. And then, you hear about these meta layoffs. So, we definitely, as again, like a really mission driven do good firm, are grappling with the ethical implications, both environmentally, what it means for our workforce. How do we set our workforce up to evolve to meet this moment instead of becoming obsolete? So all that to say, we have those reservations, but we also know if we don't adapt, we'll be obsolete. And so we have a team in the office where we're testing it across multiple venues. And I would say the place we're having the most success is the stuff that, I mean, it's not design. Because the thing is, it is not design. You know, AI looks backwards.
Yeah.
It works only on the data and the work us humans have already done.
Yeah.
And so my question is, how's it really going to look forward?
Right.
And maybe some computer.
Because it can only iterate. It can't generate.
Yeah. And so that does give me hope. So we're using it, you know, to help synthesize, like, because also our work, there is just kind of a ton of paperwork, like around logging submittals in the construction process, or we have to respond to requests for proposals for a lot of our work. Like that's basically where somebody issues an RFP and we like all compete for it. And those are often like 50 to 100 page documents. So it's like helped along with marketing. And we are testing it for renderings, although the thing we're struggling with is just, I mean, hair flip, it's not as good as us.
Yeah.
Like, because we are such a design forward office, we kind of feel like these AI renderings are lackluster and they also don't work. You know, you're like, well, there's no column here. It's going to need a column, or this building is actually 6 stories, but it's modeled it as 5.
Yeah.
Like there are these nuances that we catch as architects that I'm not sure the general public does. So we're grappling with like how to talk about that with people, you know, in a way that doesn't sound arrogant, but it's like, well, but this is just wrong. Like it's close. Like there's all this AI slop. It really requires all of us to be so discerning. So we're begrudgingly testing, but I mean, we've also always been like a really forward thinking office. So
I feel like having your sisters and brothers in San Francisco means that y'all are probably always kind of have your finger on the pulse.
Totally. Yeah. David Baker started using this 3D program Revit in 2004, which was just unheard of. Like he's kind of always been that way. So we've tried to keep that forward facing, but you know, I'm not sure. I mean, we were also brainstorming yesterday as a partner group. I mean, other ways of business and working, like, do we move into thought leadership and research? Do we move into development, which has already been a stated goal for myself anyway. And my partners have really enjoyed the development work we've done, like with Bandsaw, and we were able to invest in 2nd and 20th. And again, Birmingham's just an environment where, you know, it's just easier to get in here versus San Francisco. So so we're still figuring it out.
So how did you end up getting connected with David Baker and then going all the way over to San Francisco from Auburn?
Yeah, so due to that love of cities, I knew that I wanted to sell my car and live the urban life. And so over college spring breaks or anytime I had the chance, I would just go to different cities. And I still remember my mom, she thought she would kind of help quench this thirst. And she's like, okay, let's go to Chicago. It was like our sophomore year.
Yeah, you'll see how bad it really is there.
Yeah, sure. I'll take you and then you'll be over this. Love you, Mom. But I still remember being in Chicago and just like experiencing the built environment and the richness and the layers and the movement and how it was like happening, and how on a street corner, you know, you would just have all these experiences and the way that you could get around and not use a car. It's incredible. And I just remember it was like the first rush and I wanted to just like keep going. And my mom has since joked about that. She's like, wow, yeah, that really went a lot differently.
That backfired.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I kind of kept testing around, and I love New York. I will always love New York, but I was like, maybe not here, you know, Boston, I love it, but no. Didn't love Southern California, but then, man, I went to San Francisco and I was like, this is the place. It's this collision of urbanity and like old school European city, incredibly walkable and like pretty small as far as big cities are concerned. It's 7x7, 49 square miles, and just like the landscape and the beauty. You'll just be walking and you look left and you're like, well, there's Alcatraz, you know, and then you go to another neighborhood and you get this other incredible view. It's just like so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I picked San Francisco and I just like sent my portfolio and like beautifully packaged materials to everyone that had basically like won design awards that I thought like were a good firm.
Yeah.
And I somehow found David, because I mean, he's always won design awards. He's a once in a generation kind of talent. And, I didn't hear from him, and he called me and I was going to fly out the next day, and he's like, can you come in tomorrow? And so I moved my flight and had an interview with him. I remember when I came in, he was like photographing orchids. Like he kept me waiting for like 20 minutes. And then we just had this interview and I thought it went great, but I didn't hear from him for a while. And I remember being in my living room, because I went home for a semester to kind of work with somebody locally while I kind of figured out how I was going to launch. And I remember telling my dad, I'm like, Dad, I'm just going to go. Like, this is where I'm going. This is what I want to do. I'm just going to go out there. I'll figure it out. And I just remember him being like, babe, I really wish that you would find a job.
Yeah.
And he sent me an email and was like, hey, do you want to get started? And I started in January of 2006.
Wow. Were you and Brandon together?
We were dating, and we laugh about this now, but I kept trying to break up with him because he was incredible. But I was like, well, this isn't my life plan. My life plan is to go to architecture school, do great at that, and then move far away and don't even think about marriage, because I mean, I really do love architecture and I love working. And to be candid, like a lot of, I don't know, I just was not interested in choosing domesticity over my career because I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of felt like, well, I shouldn't be in a relationship. And I just remember being struck one day and being like, well, Amanda, you had this life plan that you're not even going to consider marriage till 30, but why would you give up such an incredible guy because of some predetermined plan, rom-com that you wrote life that you wrote yourself? So we were dating and he got out of school a semester after me and he was like, well, why don't you wait? And I was like, I wait for no man. I was like, you know where I'll be. And so, he would come out to visit often, and then he came out and proposed, which, much to the dismay of everyone we knew in San Francisco, because they were like, you guys are children. Yeah. Why would you consider getting married? And I was like, I thought we were pretty old. Like, I was like, most of my college
all my friends got married like
a few years back.
Like 21.
Yeah, exactly. So that was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, it was so awesome. So he moved out within the first year and we got married, and I mean, we were like partners taking on this new city. Yeah. And it was awesome.
That's awesome. So when you come back here, tell me how it works. So you own your practice under David Baker.
Yeah. So David started the firm the year I was born. Okay.
That's crazy.
I know. And then
do you remind him of that often to make him feel old? Yeah, I do. Although he's the first one. I remember like in my mid 30s, he was like, you're early middle age now. And I was like, am I? So, now I guess. He shoots back.
Yeah. I mean, I have readers and everything now. That's where we're at, you know, and I think we're going to keep going in that direction. Yeah. What do they say? Gray hairs are a crown of wisdom. Yeah, I'm keeping mine. Come on, do it. Yeah. So my mom did. I'm going natural. Yeah. She said, I've earned these. Exactly. Also, it's so much money and time. Yeah. To deal with it. Genuinely. And I will say that having success early in my career, there is always this assumption that I work for somebody else, or I remember people had questioned me being in the room. Like I remember David sent me to an interview, and I was maybe only 5 years into my career at that time, and somebody was like, they sent you? Like they literally said it. Like they were like, aren't you young? Like people would always comment on how young I was. So now I'm looking old. So we won't hear that anymore. Did you like that, or how did that affect you? I remember being like, what are you talking about? I deserve to be here. Yeah. Or just why does that matter? And of course I had so much to learn. I mean, that's the nice thing about your 20s is like, you feel like you have learned so much because you have, but you don't quite understand how much more you still have to learn. I wrestle with that a lot because I'm 26, and so I am extremely eager. I'm obsessive about like learning and adapting and changing and trying new things and building stuff and like trying to find my path. And so in a lot of rooms, I'm talking to a 55-year-old and like I feel my own pride of like thinking that I know more than him or I'm more eager than him. And I think that's also maybe just a personality thing of like sometimes I'm around people who don't have similar ambitions to me, and that's like okay, it's not a bad thing. But I sometimes wrestle with like understanding how to channel that ambition
appropriately and not be dismissive of other people or discount older people for what they definitely know. Like they definitely have more wisdom than I do.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think both can be true. Like, you know, in those moments I could kind of be like, well, I feel like I deserve to be here. But it's always important, I think, to ask questions. Like, you don't have to agree, but I do think it is important to be like, well, what does this person know?
Yeah.
But I mean, you could have more ambition. I mean, I do think that has been an interesting thing coming from San Francisco to Birmingham. San Francisco, like, everyone is starting a business.
Yeah.
Everyone is hustling. Everyone is entrepreneurial. Like, it shows up socially. It shows up everywhere, which I love.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily the environment in Birmingham. I think there are those people here 100%. I think we're a great place to innovate and incubate. But it's definitely not in the water the way that is in San Francisco.
You have to seek out those groups as opposed to kind of just like swimming in it.
Yeah. And, you know, I think there's a lot of positivity to that. There is this like, let's smell the roses. Let's leave before 5 o'clock because people have families. I mean, there is this whole, there are different priorities, which I think is important to be aware of.
Yeah.
But I have I've definitely missed that a little bit, but it's been good for us to be here because I think we've struck the right balance, Brandon and I, although he's always trying to open a new business. I'm like, really? Another one?
Yeah.
Do we really need to open that? Okay. But yeah, so I think we've got enough in our own house that it's good to, also, you know, to go sit on the porch or take a walk with our dog.
Yeah. What's it been like being an ambitious, high-achieving woman with children, being a mom?
Well, that one's loaded. Okay, you can't have it all. It's just not true. But I do really feel like I'm having my cake and eating it too. And Birmingham is what made it work. I think we could not have made it work in San Francisco. And so, I mean, I think that is really cool to say that like this place, this city, the way that it's organized, its affordability, the fact that our parents are both of our parents are in Decatur, an hour away. It has made it possible to do it all. I mean, especially when we first moved here, I've had to travel extensively. I mean, Brandon's traveled for when he was still doing more film work. And because the parents were close and because we could afford babysitters and because of this community, we've been able to make it work.
Yeah.
But it's not for the faint of heart. You know, I probably don't sleep as much as I should. I'm trying to work on that. And then one of the things that a friend of mine said when I was kind of struggling with going back into work, because I mean, the other thing that I think is really important for working moms and dads is to have great like parental leave policies. Mm-hmm. I mean, also, if you really want to get me going, I also think we should have affordable childcare, and our society should provide for parents in a lot better way than we do. Yeah. There's a soapbox we could get on if we wanted. But our office, we give people basically between 5 and 6 months leave. That's and we're really flexible. Like you might want to take that first 2 months and then spread it around. So you really get to go be in that moment. And then when I was coming back and I was really struggling, or just, you know, the kind of normal stuff that came up about, because there is this guilt that is just like always around. My friend was like, your kids need to see who you are. Like they don't need to see an altered version of you that you think they needed. Like they need to see Amanda like as an architect. And so I'm always trying to tell them like why I'm doing the work I'm doing. Because I do feel like, and this is probably true for moms and dads, but like you've really got to love your work. I mean, kids are incredible. Once you have that baby, like they are everything. Yeah. And it's been really important to me to have work that I truly believe in and that it's making a difference for me to kind of bear that cost of, you know, not being around. But I'm always trying to tell them about why I'm doing the work I'm doing. At this point, my youngest, for sure, she'll like weigh in, like I'll be drawing at home and she's like, I think you should try this here. I think you should do that color. They've gone to community meetings with me. They're going to come into the AIA conference this summer to this kind of fellowship ceremony.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I've tried to I think both Brandon and I try to involve them in just the why and the what. And the decisions we're making.
Yeah. What, how do you and Brandon stay well connected while both running businesses?
Well, we're still figuring that out. But, you know, it's basically anytime we see a window to connect. Like recently, our amazing babysitter like took the kids. Oh, she was like, hey, I'm going to take them to a 410 movie. And Brandon immediately was like, hey, let's go to Fun Fun. You know? So it's trying to capture those windows. And then we also try to make sure we take trips together. And then just like open communication day to day of, hey, I need you to do this thing. It's tough because both of us are entrepreneurial and creative. So we're not naturally your spreadsheet planner people. And I think that's been one of our biggest challenges, is just basically trying to like hold all the logistics.
Yeah.
So it's a process.
Yeah. My wife and I are kind of opposites. She's like I need to know 3 days in advance before something happens so that I can mentally prepare for it and have it on my calendar and all this kind of stuff. And when I put things on the calendar, I don't want to be beholden to it. I want to have my freedom to like do things spontaneously. And so we kind of like have more of like that push pull of like, she keeps us on track and organized a bit, and I try and bring as much fun into that mix as possible. But she's much more like, she has her job. She's a PA. She works her job. I'm like trying to start 3 businesses and working a job at the same time. So
it's all over the place.
Yeah. I'm all over the place.
Well, but I mean, in some ways I'm jealous of that balance because maybe that keeps you guys like together. But yeah, I mean, Brandon and I always say like one of the things I love about us is we're so spontaneous. I mean, we are down for whatever, you know. It's so much easier for us to say yes to a same day hang than to get it 3 months from now.
Yeah.
It just, and so I think because of that, you know, we've been able to find friends that are also down for whatever. And, you know, and hang out when we do get those windows, like hanging out with people for like hours, you know, versus just like a tight little 60 minutes. So hopefully we're modeling to the kids how important, you know, relationships and community really are.
Let's keep going on David.
Okay.
So you get out there, you work for David.
Yeah.
What's that like? And then what the process of like moving here and like, it's still under David Baker, but
we haven't changed the firm name. Yeah.
Okay.
So David started, well, first of all, he said, he brought this up even yesterday. I guess he had this rule that he would never hire anyone with no experience and without a master's degree, which I was both of those.
Yeah.
Because I'd worked for a woman in our hometown for a couple months who did like Southern Living home plans and stuff. So, I mean, I really didn't have experience because I worked all the way through, or I was in school all the summers because I have a degree in architecture and interior architecture from Auburn because they offer a dual degree program.
So that was an undergrad.
That was undergrad, 5-year professional degree.
Okay.
To be an architect, you either need a 5-year professional degree or you have to have a master's program before you're able to take the test. There is an apprenticeship model where you don't have to have a degree, but that takes many, many years and many hours to log.
Yeah.
And then you take when I took it was 9 tests, and then California had an additional exam.
Wow.
Just because there's a lot of special regulations.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got licensed. I think it was 2011, became an associate at the office. But yeah, David, I mean, he was and is incredible to work with. He knows how to enjoy life. He's fun. He's a storyteller. He's incredibly talented. He has a high standard. And he also continued this idea that architects, like we should be citizen architects. And he's the one that first really showed me how architects need to understand politics and care about it and weigh in on it.
Interesting.
Because politics affects land use and land use affects what can get built. And so, you know, there was always these local propositions that had really big effects on the built environment. So he was not scared to like, you know, have the stuff up in the office, like no on P or whatever the proposition was, or yes on L to fund whatever. And then just this idea, and I believe this should be true for all of us, not just architects, but this idea as an architect, like I should go to my community meetings. Like if there's a meeting about a new dog park or a new road they're thinking about widening, or like architects need to be there because we've got this training and this lens, and we should like show up as citizens.
Yeah.
And whether we like it or not, politics, it shapes the built environment. And so there's also all this advocacy work we would do as an office. So one of the projects I led there was this study to figure out where we could put extra density. So there's like single family homes make up 60% of San Francisco's fabric.
Wow.
And the zoning.
I don't know if I would have guessed that.
I know,
it seems
right?
like a lot.
Yeah. And the zoning only allowed 1 and 2 family dwellings in all like large swaths of the city, and honestly often affluent spaces in the city. And so I got to be a part of this policy that honestly really made a lot of people angry, that just started to study, well, how could we weave density into these places? Because we have a housing crisis and we need to figure this out. And so architecture is so much more than like form and space and materials. You have to kind of think about who gets to decide what can be built here.
Yeah.
And then the advocacy I've been doing since I got to Alabama is the way that affordable housing is funded in our country is it uses state and federal tax credits. And often that's not enough to get a building built. You need gap funds, you need extra dollars. And San Francisco has lots of those extra funds, even though they're very overprescribed and it has their own challenges. But like Alabama, we have like none. We have like no gap funds. And the way that we distribute our tax credits is 1 project per county a year.
Wow.
So if you think about that, it puts places like Huntsville, Birmingham, the college towns, Mobile, like places that are growing that need more housing so that like wait staff have a place to live. It really makes it tough for those places.
Yeah.
So this is like really nerdy, non-sexy stuff that has nothing to do with drawing.
Yeah.
But it like affects what gets built.
Yeah.
And so I think as architects, I mean, again, all of us, but like I think architects really need to like spend time understanding what's going on, making their voices heard, because we have a particular training. Like when Birmingham was getting rid of their parking requirements, this is probably too nerdy for your audience.
No, keep going.
So we had this, like a lot of places, we had a minimum amount of parking you had to require. Well, if you think about that, if you're on a small downtown lot, the bandsaw building, we have no parking.
Yeah.
And so I had
Street
to go
parking.
through like a whole variance, situation to get that. And luckily we were successful and they allowed us to do it. But if we would have had to put parking in there, the project wouldn't have happened. And that's so true of so many other things. Or when you're trying to house people, parking costs money. Or even this other project we did, 2323, it's these black wedge buildings. I don't know if you've seen them on Second. They're like close to the Battery.
Okay.
But it has 11 units and only 4 parking spaces because there's ample street parking though. But you can find a street spot anywhere.
Yeah.
But if we would have parked that at like 2 parking spaces per home, there would have only been like a couple townhouses there,
Yeah.
So I hate this saying, but I say it because it's true. Form follows parking. So, because the question's always like, well, how much parking do we have to provide? Because they take up a lot of space and it takes up a lot of money.
Yeah. I actually did learn about that because I went to Samford.
Yeah.
And parking was always a problem. It was like the #1 complaint of like all undergrad students. And they did a project after I graduated to build on another parking deck to the back of campus. But I think that they priced it out at like, it was like $20,000 per spot or something crazy like that. And they were trying to add like a lot of spaces.
Yeah.
So it was like, you're going to spend that much money just to have like parking.
That's exactly what it costs. And sometimes it's more.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if we think
and
about
people don't think about that because like it's just asphalt on the ground. You're just like, oh, or like concrete that goes up. You're like, oh, whatever. It's like simple and easy or whatever.
Yes. And this gets back to like why the design of cities matter. Because if we design everything for cars, it's going to look like 280. Who is going to put like a 280 on a postcard anytime soon? No one.
No one ever.
When you Google Birmingham, do you know what like always comes up is the railroad park with the downtown buildings.
Yeah.
Because we innately know that is like the spaces and places we want to be, like these European cities that are not designed around cars. And so all this gets back to like political activism, because the city of Birmingham was like debating if they should remove parking requirements. And so we wrote letters in our office. We like sent our folks to the hearings to like speak on behalf as technical experts of like, because you can still provide parking as a landowner if you want, but let's not make everybody.
Yeah.
And so Birmingham, we do not have parking requirements anymore. So
Hello.
way to go, Birmingham.
Hello.
But you think about, okay, my favorite example of this in Birmingham is, I mean, Crestwood.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite
That's where
neighborhoods.
I live, right over here.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's wonderful.
So we first moved, when we moved downtown, we lived in the Phoenix building lofts, and we just never really saw anybody. You know, we didn't get to know many people. We had a newborn also, and the walls didn't go up to the ceiling. So
Did you meet Brian Johnson?
Well, we met Brian in Crestwood.
Oh, okay.
Because
he is in the Phoenix building, but he also lives,
God, yeah, we met him
his
in Crestwood.
studio's over there.
Because Crestwood was designed and when we had streetcars in Birmingham.
Huh.
The blocks are smaller.
Yeah.
The porches are on the street. Mm-hmm. There are sidewalks. Mm-hmm. And I posit, you know, we moved to Crestwood and we had like a gaggle of friends within a month. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you it's because of the design.
Really?
Now think about some suburban whatever off of 280.
Yeah.
Yes, you may eventually know your neighbors, but think about it. Like Crestwood, like the way the blocks and the houses and the sidewalks are set up, like it facilitates community.
Yeah.
And that's why design matters.
I've never thought about that being the thing. Because, like, part of it is I do have just a bunch of friends from college who've ended up, like, moving there and buying houses and stuff. But, like, my wife and I walked our dog yesterday and we met two random ladies just because we were walking around our neighborhood and they happen to live on the same street and they have dogs too. And all of a sudden, you know,
I mean,
two new people I know.
Yeah. And some neighborhoods don't even have sidewalks. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
But there's so many of them.
Yeah. My parents, I grew up in Mississippi, and the house that my parents moved, they live in Vestavia now. But they lived on this street that was like, each house had, you know, 3 acres or something like that of space. And it was just a street and no sidewalks. And it was that. Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I mean, I love a rural landscape. So
this was like not enough of either.
Exactly. But the place between rural and urban, I don't think there's magic there. No. It's often designed by, and no offense to my civil engineer brothers and sisters, but like when a place feels like it was designed by a civil engineer, it just does not, which, you know, their job is to move water and cars and utilities.
Yeah.
But when, like, you know, a landscape architect gets in there, I mean, you design for the things that make us human and make us happy.
Yeah. My defense of suburbia has always been that population is growing, places are growing, and so it's cheap. And people throw it up quickly, and people want their single family homes, and they just throw up these rows of houses that there's like 3 different, you know, spec houses in a neighborhood, and throw it up and it's fine and whatever, and move on to the next thing. What I love about what you're doing is that you're doing affordable housing and creating homes and density. Maybe that's the wrong use of density, but like you're building that without using cheapness as an excuse.
Yeah. Well, and I would ask, is it really cheap? So you've got to drive more. It takes up more space. Those kind of spec home quality, like, they don't last that long. So, and yeah, I mean, it means you need to afford a car, often 2 cars. And suburbs, I mean, most of them can tend to really lose their value in like high market, you know, swings. Yeah. Whereas, you know, I think there are other ways aside from like apartment buildings. Like, think about Highland Park, you know, or Crestwood. Like, these are, or even, I mean, most of Birmingham's like neighborhood fabric is this old streetcar, tighter knit. Like, there's actually density there, but it's livable density with character. Yeah. And there's this movement in planning called new urbanism. I mean, it's the places famous for this are like Seaside or Rosemary Beach. I was wanting
to get to this. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing that's wild, so there's some stuff about new urbanism I don't buy into. Like, there's they also believe there's like a stylistic, there's like a cuteness that needs to be applied. And I don't agree with that, but I agree with the urban planning principles, this idea that you walk everywhere and, you know, lots are smaller and, you know, you can get anywhere you need to just by foot, which is how we used to live in San Francisco. And I really miss that. Like you could hit the grocery, the dry cleaner, you could get a bus anywhere, the coffee shop, the hardware store.
Yeah.
We could walk there.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah. That's been my experience of Birmingham because I lived in Canterbury Gardens.
Yes.
For like 3 or 4 years. And
this is a great example.
I bought a house in Forest Park. So I like my whole experience of Birmingham has been that. Whereas I think like a generic stereotype of Alabama is more of like the 280 suburbia and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But I've been spoiled because I live in all the density, amazing neighborhoods.
Exactly. Density adds richness.
Yeah.
It adds community. It adds convenience. It adds beauty.
Yeah.
And I think we could be building more like that.
Yeah.
It is higher kind of cost per foot, but my argument is it's so much richer, so much better, and like more sustainable. Like Forest Park is always going to hold value. If anything, it's going up.
Yeah.
Right. And
I'm trying to convince my parents to buy a house over there.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely on our bucket list. We're right now somewhere else for the school system, but we're in a walkable, my kids can walk to school.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about you running your own firm and being a leader. Did you intend that one day you would own your own business?
I did always want to start my own office. Yeah, I knew I wanted to work with the best, but I just always assumed that I would start my own firm.
Yeah.
But after I came back from maternity leave with my first daughter, Eleanor, David was starting to think about ownership transition. So David is 76. And so that was a little more than 10 years. Well, at this point, it was probably 14 years ago. And so he first approached me about becoming an owner, and he had tapped a few of us within the office to kind of be the second generation of owners. And that took a long time for all the reasons it should, just from being a firm that was run by one person. And now there are 7 of us total partners. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I definitely wrestled with it for a while because I did want to do my own thing. I mean, and I love David Baker so much, but yeah, it is funny just being like, I'm David Baker Architects, you know, even though I am an owner, but my name's not in there, you know? And I ultimately have found peace with that because the people I work with are incredible. The scale and impact at which we're able to work because we're building on David's shoulders and the foundations he laid, and we're working together, and we're just able to participate in like huge projects that really make big differences. Like in Raleigh, we're doing this 4-acre project that's going to be, we're keeping an existing railroad depot. We're adding a new hotel. We're doing a music venue.
Super cool.
And we're doing all of this like really active, interesting retail and open spaces. But I wouldn't be able to do that as like a sole, you know, I would have had to spend the time to like grow my office, like my own office to, you know, a particular size and sophistication to be able to just do that work. And so it's been such an honor to kind of build from that foundation, but then also starting the office in Birmingham kind of scratched that itch as well.
Yeah.
'Cause it was kind of up to me to find the clients, find the work, and just, there's just not time to micromanage decisions of an office in Alabama. So I think it's provided a really nice sweet spot of kind of, there's a lot of autonomy, but then I'll also have this incredible team I get to work with.
Yeah. What has been the most challenging part of leading a group of people yourself?
I think the things that, again, you don't go to school for. So, I mean, I've had a laser focus on my craft since architecture school. It's because buildings are hard. They say in architecture, you don't even think about peaking until 50. Like there's just so much to learn about the craft, like both the physical world, how materials work, how things come together, how to navigate stakeholders and budgets and partnerships. And just this kind of iterative process of knowing what feels good. You know, you can draw it on paper, but then, So yeah, that's just been a really long process, and that's kind of what I've been focusing on. But then, yeah, when you become a leader, I mean, people are the most important thing. And I mean, I love working with people. But you know, and everybody will tell you this is true. I mean, you know, it's tough to give hard feedback. It's tough to make hard calls. Like sometimes you're not sure what the right call is. So I do think the management, not necessarily the people, but the management of the office, that's been the hardest, because I just don't love it as much, you know, about deciding, I don't know if we should get new computers or, you know, or reviewing the financials, even though it's really important, or talking about our HR policies, or, I mean, all that stuff is really important, but like, it does not give me life the way the actual craft of architecture and like talking with clients and communities and like drawing and seeing it built and looking at finishes, like they just kind of don't compare. So I think the hardest part is being committed to trying to get better at those things that I'm probably not naturally as good at, because we're such a big office. It's like you can't neglect those things. You know, the team's got to thrive, and all those things I mentioned, although maybe not glamorous, like are key to the team thriving.
Yeah. Is that something you could eventually like hire someone to do? We
talk about this as partners all the time, because we're all kind of in the seats we are because we're great at design and love design.
Right.
We did have a consultant tell us that maybe we could have a managing partner. So we'll see, but we're also not corporate. Like we're very, even though we're like 60 people, we're still like eclectic and funky and weird and do-gooders and all that. So that's what we've struggled with as a team. Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense I struggle with it individually too.
Yeah.
And contracts. That's the other thing I hate doing is it's really tough to try to, most people get this, but it's tough to kind of engage somebody and they're like, all right, I want to work with you. And it's tough when they don't have the value on your time and talent that you need. And so I think I've grown so much. I'm so much better at that than I used to be, but that's been really tough, is kind of convincing people that we bring a lot of value, and like we're definitely not the cheapest out there, but if you want excellence and scrappiness and functionality and richness, like we're your people, but it does cost some money. And so those conversations have been really hard. I've had to grow to just get comfortable having them.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I work in sales. I do insurance for my job for churches and nonprofits. And I feel like one of the most challenging parts of any business period is that relationship with money, and understanding what something is worth and what someone's time is worth. Mm-hmm. And I talk a lot about that with my artist friends, because they're trying to determine what their time and efforts are worth and not be scared of asking for that. Anyway, that's a tangent. But the future. Because you're approaching your prime in a period of time.
I'm going to make it.
In a period of time that...
I'm 43.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm not going to ask your age, but...
It's okay.
You're approaching your prime.
Yeah,
theoretically.
Right.
What are you excited for the future? What are you working towards? I
really do want to develop, because I do think that I spend a lot of my time, and again, it's not with all of my clients, but I don't know, I've felt this with all the spaces I've been able to do in Birmingham. I've been like, but this could be so good. Like Brandon and I talked about that a lot with Golden Age, and we talked about it a lot with Augusta, with Supertone. It's like, but people don't even know how good this can be. And unless you have client buy-in, like sometimes you can't do that thing. And so I want to put my money where my mouth is and like do more work that I commission so that I can test and innovate and demonstrate, like, look what this could be, y'all. So I'd really like to do more development in Birmingham, particularly. Yeah.
In anything, or is there a particular sector or industry or type of building you'd want to be doing?
I mean, I'd love to do more buildings like Bandsaw. And I also would like to try my hand at not subsidized affordable housing, but like this kind of livable density, where maybe, you know, on one parcel there are 3 units, or like a couple of parcels where there's more. They call this missing middle housing in my industry, which is this, because it's this density of housing that you just don't see a lot done. Like people either do single family or they go really dense, and that's because of like financing and some other realities. But I think this missing middle, which is a lot of like in Highland Park, right? Like people have like carriage houses, or there's like a few of those cool like walk up old apartment flat buildings. Like I'd love to do some of that work to kind of demonstrate like kind of a different way of living.
Yeah.
That we're maybe not seeing built in the environment right now.
Yeah. Super cool. Where can people find you?
Well, our office is, you know, David Baker Architects. So our company website is dbarchitect.com. We're on Instagram. I think we're David Baker Architects. I am on Instagram, although I don't post a lot, just as Amanda Loper. But yeah, I mean, people can come by the office, come check it out. Yeah.
I want to come see your office.
Oh yeah,
I've never been in.
Oh yeah, you got to come see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
always peek in the windows because I a lot of times when we go to June, we sit at that table right in front of your office, and I like look in there.
Yeah, please do.
It looks really cool.
We were able, again, because we were the client, we were able to keep all this like industrial ruin that personally I love.
Yeah.
We offset it with these like kind of soft touches like curtains and vintage furniture, but the walls are also peeling. So
yeah,
which as an architect, I love like rusty metal and peeling walls.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
This is fun. Cheers, everybody.
Good design for everybody. We all deserve it, regardless of income.
Come on.
Awesome. Well, thanks.